Amazon Prime's The Peripheral Season 1 has come to a close and has left us with a ton of mysteries. So let's put on our VR headsets and talk about the 20 things you missed in The Peripheral. Blink and you might pass over a reference that only the most hardcore enthusiasts may register.
Don't blink.
In the 3D printing shop, as Flynn is saying she would never have a life outside the shop, take a gander at the upper left-hand corner of your screen at one of the prints waiting to be collected. It's exactly at 12 minutes and 22 seconds if you need help finding it. That little red bolt that could is lovingly called Benchy. It is a benchmark test for 3D printers. And printing one of these bad boys yourself can help you sort out whatever calibration you need. I bet that place has an armada of the little red boats by now. Even in post-apocalyptic times, England loves its royal lineage as seen in the Queen's crest and the security bots of 2099's London. How do I know it's the Queen? Well, I'm glad I asked. One can tell it's the Queen because it is rounded at the top, while the King's crest is far more square and stereotypically more crown-shaped. So let's hope King Charles sticks around longer, because I'd rather wear one of those uniforms than be caught dead in one of Lev Zubov's Paisley t-shirts. Now don't get me wrong, Paisley's fine, even great. But on every piece of clothing, that's a tough one. But hell, I gotta tip my cap to the confidence of Lev Zubov. That man is a Paisley prince. But let's talk about the more symbolic reasonings the wardrobe has throughout the show. Let's look at the lunch that Zubov and Charisse Newland have. Her hexagon on hexagon umbrella pairs wonderfully with her honeycomb accented outfit. It is the pinnacle of geometric design and order. Then you have the purple Paisley prince himself. It's a similar design, either hidden in the scarf or the handkerchief, if not just the pattern of his shirt. These two designs are conflicting at first. Paisley is very floral, very fractal in nature, almost chaotic at times. The honeycomb speaks for itself with the very wax structure of nature's organizers. We see the two are definitely at odds, but they are not opposites. These symbolic patterns depict the conflict of ideology the two have. Paisley is chaotic, while honeycombs are orderly. The aesthetic of the futuristic London cityscape is sprinkled with neo-noir and a big dash of cyberpunk. William Gibson, the writer of the 2014 novel by the same name, is actually known for pioneering the sci-fi subgenre that is cyberpunk. His works were noir but still future-based stories that explored effects of new tech, cybernetics, and computer networks on humans. He helped create the iconography for the information age we're living in. As a gamer, sci-fi lover, nerd, which I just learned is a word created by Dr. Seuss, I thank you, Mr. William Gibson. In April 2018, the TV series adaptation of William Gibson's novel, The Peripheral, was announced to the world by the creators of Westworld, Lisa Joy and Jonathan Nolan. Now, let's think about it. We got a Westworld mastermind, we got the man who created Cyberpunk, and now we got the brother of Christopher Nolan. I mean, geez, I'm still trying to figure out what happened in Tenet. When I was in the theater, the time was moving sideways. But either way, I'm sure a lot of people knew there was going to be a big feast of science fiction pleasure. But the thing is, when you mix time travel into it, everyone gets a little crazy. Audiences are always skeptical about plot holes that are likely to come from time travel plot devices. However, The Peripheral avoids the cause and effect paradoxes that plague many time travel stories by specifying early in the season that communication from the future to the past creates branching alternate timelines. Thus, the character's timeline will stay intact. The Peripheral's future-era characters can toy with the past and never worry about affecting their own reality. There's a whole lot of buzz going on pre- and post-Jackpot world. The entire show is riddled with symbols and references and chatting about bees. Perhaps this is meant to represent both the fragility of nature as well as the care we must have to maintain it. The main antagonist, Dr. Charisse Newland, is introduced to us by being called the Queen Bee. She keeps them, as well as her entire wardrobe that we spoke about, orbits around their design. She even describes the Jackpot, including the mass extinction of the pollinating creatures. I wish I could say that these concerns are a work of fiction or sci-fi, but the sad reality is that the Earth is experiencing bee colony collapses faster than anyone should feel comfortable with. But fret not, because as of 2022, bees are actually making a bit of a comeback. Be wary, but be hopeful. So let's learn from the alternate timelines of The Peripheral and keep our bees making honey.
Thinking bee! Thinking bee! Thinking bee! Thinking bee!
Hold up. One more thing about bees. When Burton goes to see his friend Connor Penske about joining him, he finds his friend drunk on the couch. When he turns off the television, it is a documentary about bees. Something can be said about a protagonist turning away from a harsh reality. Something could be said, I'm not gonna say it. Let's keep moving. Flynn's character starts the same in the book and the show, with the same job and the same passion for video gaming. However, her journey to the future London scene in the Amazon Prime series is quite different. In the series, Flynn's brother Burton asks her to test out a simulated world with an unfamiliar headset, one without any VR goggles. Burton has been paid to trial run this simulated experience, but he knows the only real reason they handpicked him was because of Flynn's great talent. However, in the book, Burton is a drone operator working security for a Colombian business in a virtual world that looks vaguely similar to London. He leaves town to protest an extremist religious group and puts Flynn in charge of his respected duties. While performing her security obligations, she witnesses a horrific murder and finds herself inadvertently linked to a Lita West disappearance. Thus, the adventure begins.
I'm going on an adventure!
The show certainly makes a connection between wealth and the aesthetic of nature. It could be in the characters' clothing, in their surroundings, or hell, even on their body. It's interesting to notice the wealthier a character is, the farther away from reality they seem to be, and the closer the proximity to at least the feeling of a natural world is. From afar, we see that the cityscape of 2099's London is completely overgrown with green, but it is hidden. Yet the wealthy throw extravagant parties in gardens and greenhouse-like venues to experience the world they've lost. Even in lounging rooms, they paint their walls and ceilings to resemble the sky and other natural entities. Even both Dr. Newland and Zubov own an extinct species, the bees and the Tasmanian tigers, who are selfishly locked up for their own bemusement. Bemusement. That's a word? We got amusement, bemusement, C-musement. Who's next? Let's talk about the Jackpot. It is said to be the perfect storm of devastating events until the world is forever changed. It is also the name of the third book in the Peripheral series that is yet to be released. It remains a constant throughout the book and the show. The Jackpot is a period of time that is deemed the end of the world. In the series, it's described as the combination of tragic events that lead to declining population. There's famine, war, terrorism, climate change, pandemic. However, the details of the cataclysmic events are left relatively undescribed for most of the series. One would say it's even out of focus in the Peripheral. Obviously, the title, The Peripheral, comes from the element of the eye. Now, eyes hold a lot of significance in the show, but in one perspective, the entire show can be seen as a condemnation of voyeurism. Voyeurism, in a safe-for-work explanation, is when someone takes pleasure from watching others do things. The soldiers in the show are chemically altered due to their haptic implants, and these implants allow them to communicate silently and even control drones. And while it did save Flynn's brother, it also led to the loss of Connor Pensk's arms and legs. In addition, Flynn's initial session into the future London was basically a cool James Bond espionage adventure. But the next time she enters, she's forced to endure the pain of a gruesome eye operation, and it seems whenever someone looks through the eyes of another in this world or commits an act of voyeurism, they are harmed or punished. Corporal Pickett was more right than he probably knew when he said all bananas went extinct due to fungus. Let me take you back through fruit history for a moment and talk about arguably the most famous banana ever.
Banana!
Before the 1950s, the most eaten banana in the world was called the Gros Michel. Far from gross, these bananas were actually stronger in flavor and were bigger than the current Cavendish bananas we eat today. But one fungal infection in the banana crop spread like wildfire, basically wiping them all off the earth except for a few small places. The very same problem almost happened to our new beloved Cavendish banana. Why are bananas so bad at fighting fungus? Well, it's because they're all basically just one banana. Quite literally. All bananas are actual clones genetically made up of the exact same properties, meaning if it kills one of them, it's probably gonna kill the rest. Allow me to entangle your mind for a moment. The offhanded remark to explain how exactly Flynn is able to experience the world of the future isn't without scientific merit. Hold on to your textbooks because I'm gonna put the sexy back in theoretical physics. So, quantum tunneling, in a ridiculously rough paraphrase, is when a waveform flows through a potential barrier. In doing so, it would break the rules of classically thought mechanics, and some physicists believe it would thus move faster than the speed of light. The closer anything gets to the speed of light, the slower time would move for that object. Following me? So, Adding these factors together, if you could somehow exploit the fundamental way information travels to move past the speed of light, the sending and receiving of information would be in a quantum state and possibly, but now fictionally, could travel backwards, forwards, sideways, and who the hell knows. Which is why Flynn can experience the future but not be in it. It is a transfer of information, not her physical body. Now, if you're having trouble understanding this, we're gonna put up a quick little equation so you can iron out the details for yourself. Now let's take a look at Flynn's life in 2099. One can see if you look closely at the little white plastic model of her house, there are telltale signs of 3D printing. Now I ask you, in a world where there are holograms, neural networks, these things are ubiquitous at this point, who the hell is 3D printing? And even if you were, 60 years in the future, wouldn't you think it'd be a little bit more high-tech now? You know, put some gloss on it, smooth out the edges, add a little flair, a little bit of color.
Come out to the coast, we'll get together, have a few laughs.
Then again, I'm not even from the 2030s, so who am I to judge? How does one create a setting that feels so futuristic, but at the same time, very nostalgic? Well, in the case of the Peripheral, it's lots and lots of browns and oranges and yellows and tans and browns and oranges. But all jokes aside, the show looks incredible, and it really looks like a mix of a classic film and a neo-noir sci-fi adventure. I also love the moment that I see Flynn's printer shop. She almost seems equivalent to a film processor or printer of our times. It helps also that she's always riding her bike in the past and in a vehicle in the future. Just another hint that time has passed if you couldn't tell by everybody's insane clothing style. There is a non-stop theme of dehumanization throughout every episode and individual storyline. Perhaps the sheep that Flynn saves holds far more symbolic meaning than what meets the eye. Connor Penske is afraid to ask for help or to be pitied because it robs him of his dignity. Wilf feels lesser while around his supposed adopted family. He is even referred to as a pet and sent out to fetch things like a dog. Zubov and Dr. Newland do not see those who exist in the past as real. Pickett slaughters people like they were animals. Alita treats who she presumes is Burton like a literal tool and is hoping he sees people he's interacting with as anything but human beings. And finally, if you couldn't tell what the show was trying to convey, do you remember when Wilf and Alita were first adopted? They had their teeth checked and name changed as if they were horses or even like a slave. Dehumanization is everywhere in the Peripheral. This is a dystopia free from humanism in all senses of the word. If there is a lesson to be learned from this show, it's that empathy is a strength and not a hindrance. Flynn saved the shop. Flynn saved the shot sheep and got a tractor out of it. By reaching out to Connor, even if he was hesitant, Burton got him on the team. Empathy was literally the deciding factor in the Stubbs outgrowth from the original timeline. And due to the aspect of time travel in this particular show, these events were always going to happen, and if not in this world, then the next. This is the power of cyclical empathy. And the second episode is also called Empathy Bonus. Another fun little quick foreshadow moment from Flynn and Burton is when he tells her he wants to take a snapshot to keep the moment for prosperity. This sweet and fun little moment hints to exactly how Sims are made, at least the closer and more personal ones. The fictional war that Burton is shipped out to is one of real possibility, but also urban legend. In the series, Texas has seceded from the United States, which in reality is a treasonous act and would no doubt call for conflict. However, if you ask any Texan if they want to be independent, I doubt any of them would oppose. They got the landmass, they got the population, they got the attitude. There is a common myth that Texas struck a deal with the rest of the Union when it joined, allowing it to leave the joint states at any time. While this is not true in the slightest, the legend is built on a real quirk in the document. At will, Texas can decide to become 4 smaller states near spontaneously. Yeah, he's ruthless, an absolute ass, a murderous monster, a cheat, a womanizer, a true villain, but Corporal Pickett does not tell a lie. First off, he never denies being as powerful as he is, and he tells his wife everything about the criminal life he's involved in. Even when it comes to the flashback of those ill-fated bikers, he tells them that he was putting up crosses, and he did. The cars had all features he said they'd have, and he even told them that for the rest of their lives he'd make sure to maintain the car for free. Sure, he kills them, but technically it's definitely not a lie. Sure, he's openly a jerk, but an honest one at best. Alright, you can take off your VR headsets. We're done for now, but not for long. The creators of The Peripheral hope to continue the story with a season 2. But until then, make sure to like and subscribe for more of us here at Screen Rant. Have a good one.